Ladies and gentlemen, today I'm going to show you all the links to Jesus in the book of Genesis. And once you see this, you will not be able to unsee it ever again. So let's jump into it. Now in the very first chapter, God creates Adam. And what he says in the process of making him is quite surprising. In Genesis 1:26, God says, "Let us make man in our image." Now some of you probably know exactly where I'm going with this, but who is our in this statement? Later in Genesis 3:22, God states, "Behold, the man has become like one of us, knowing good and evil." This, of course, was after Adam and Eve ate from the forbidden tree. But again, look at the language, one of us. This plural language hints at the Trinity that we know in Christianity. God the Father, Jesus the Son, and of course the Holy Spirit. Jesus wasn't created later, as some may argue. He was there from the start. He also confirms this in the Gospel of John when he's having a heated exchange with the Jewish leaders. He's getting criticized for not knowing Abraham, and Jesus says to them, "Before Abraham was, I am." I am is of course God's name in the book of Exodus when he's speaking to Moses. Our next link is seen in Genesis 3:15. After Adam and Eve fall, God gives a mysterious promise to the serpent that tricked them. The serpent, of course, representing evil, and some argue he even represents Satan. God says, "I will put hostility between you and the woman, and between your offspring and hers. He will crush your head, and you will strike his heel." This is the first prophecy of Jesus. Jesus, of course, comes from Adam and Eve's lineage, from David, Abraham, Noah, etc. And he later crushes Satan underfoot at the cross by defeating sin and overcoming death. And of course, as we all know, later in the book of Revelations, he imprisons Satan for 1,000 years. And when Satan escapes, he finally defeats him by throwing him in the lake of fire forever. Moving on. In Genesis 14, we meet Melchizedek, the king of Salem and priest of God Most High. This is the first priest and one that is extremely special, a very holy man. He blesses Abraham and offers bread and wine to him, which already hints at something deeper, such as the Last Supper in the New Testament and of course with the New Covenant. Today, that's known as the Eucharist. Now interestingly, if we examine his name, Melchizedek, which means King of Righteousness in Hebrew, and his other name, King of Salem, means King of Peace. So together, Melchizedek means King of Righteousness and Peace. And these are both titles that are later associated directly with Jesus. In Isaiah 9:6, it says, "He will be called Prince of Peace." And in Jeremiah 23:6 it says, "This is the name by which he will be called, the Lord our righteousness." So as you can see, there is a link between Jesus and this divine priest in more ways than one. For example, not only are they both very holy men, but they both act as an intermediary between us, the humans on earth, and God in heaven. Just as Melchizedek blessed Abraham, Jesus now blesses us and stands as our eternal high priest before God. Moving on to Genesis 22. God tests Abraham by telling him to sacrifice his son, Isaac. Abraham is moments away from sacrificing him, and at the last moment, God's angel appears and stops him, and a ram is sacrificed in his place. This moment points forward to the cross, where God didn't spare his own son, he sacrificed him in order to save all of humanity. This is why Jesus is known as the true lamb provided for all of us. A common criticism from our atheist friends is that how can God be so good, yet he asked Abraham to sacrifice Isaac? Well, he was testing his faith, and as we know, the only person God truly asked to be sacrificed was his own son, and he did it for all of us. We move on to Jacob's ladder in Genesis 28. Jacob sees a vision of a ladder reaching heaven with angels ascending and descending. Later, Jesus tells Nathanael in John 1:51 that he is the ladder and the only bridge between heaven and earth, with angels again ascending and descending on the Son of Man. And we move into Genesis chapter 37 through to chapter 50. We follow the incredible story of Joseph, a young man favoured by his father but hated by his brothers. Out of jealousy, they betray him, sell him for 20 pieces of silver, and he's thrown into a pit and later imprisoned for a crime he didn't commit. But the story doesn't end there. Joseph rises from the depths of suffering to become the second in command in Egypt. And in a powerful twist, he ends up saving the very brothers who betrayed him. Doesn't that sound familiar? Joseph's life is a prophetic picture of Jesus. Just like Joseph, Jesus was rejected by his own people, sold for silver, falsely accused and humiliated. But he too was raised to glory, not just to rule, but to redeem. Joseph saved his family from physical famine. Jesus saved the world from spiritual death. The story of Joseph isn't just history, it's a shadow and foretelling of the Messiah to come. So as you can see, when we look at the book of Genesis, from the garden to the patriarchs, Genesis isn't just about the beginning of the world, it's the beginning of the gospel. Jesus is woven through every chapter, every symbol, every shadow, pointing towards the cross, the resurrection, and the redemption of all things on earth. He was there in the beginning, and he most certainly will be there in the end when he judges. If you enjoyed this Bible lesson, then I encourage you all to subscribe and like the video, and share it with anyone who would benefit from this information. Check out our other videos on the screen right now, I'm sure you're going to love them, and I'll see you over there. Alright, peace.